Microphone's on, camera is working, so hopefully you can hear me. If you come into the live stream and you can't hear me, please shout out in the chat, and I'll obviously have a look at my microphone and fix stuff. So, going live again this week. Now, last week, I recorded the episode live for the podcast and the YouTube channel, and that went really well. But the main reason I think it went really well was because I had spent the best part of an hour already rehearsing, because I had tried to record the podcast several times before that. And the software let me down, so I decided to go live. Well, this week I'm live here and I haven't done any rehearsal whatsoever. So maybe good, maybe bad, we'll see. If you can hear some noise in the background, that is my son playing the piano. Just try to ignore the background music. So I'm looking at some news this week. We've got emerging news in the field of miniatures wargaming. There's loads of stuff happening out there. And in fact, my original plan this week was to look at interesting Kickstarters, which I am going to do. But it was a very interesting couple of weeks to be looking at news for Kickstarters, because, well, I'm not going to say they're thin on the ground, because wargaming Kickstarters are never thin on the ground, but there were certainly fewer around of real interest that I could really refer to. Normally, you know, there's new games, there's new miniatures, there's stuff to talk about that's really quite relevant. But this week it's been less interesting. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing out there, and there have definitely been some interesting things to point out. But I spotted one Kickstarter that kind of sparked a thing in my head, and I went down another path, and I wanted to talk about retro themes in wargaming. And it kind of built off last week when I was talking about Games Workshop's Horus Heresy box set release, which has got a lot of retro going on with it. I mean, even if they aren't using the old 3rd edition rules, which I'm pretty sure they are, you know, the use of those, the whippy measuring sticks and the old templates and the old scatter dice, all said to me, we're looking to tap into a retro feel. Now, the new miniatures with the game are of course, brand new and very good looking. But again, you know, they've gone for the Mark VI Corvus beaky marine armor, which is tapping right back into the original RTP01 stuff. So retro is definitely something that Games Workshop is conscious of and consciously tapping into. But they are far from the only people doing this, and in fact, there's a lot of it about. And you might have seen this on Instagram and similar accounts where people are getting their hands on classic miniatures from the 80s and 90s and painting them with techniques that are modern, and creating incredible painted miniatures that really tell us that those old style and design of miniatures, really, that new miniatures, that they've got new technology in them, but they aren't better. You know, with the modern techniques of painting and hobbying, those classic minis are still incredibly compelling, interesting designs that have a place on a tabletop anywhere. And we can see this articulating itself in two examples that I'm particularly going to talk about this week. And the first one, the one that caught my eye, was Warzone Eternal. Now, you may or may not be familiar with the Warzone property. It has been kicking around for a long time. I mean, people who follow me, who are familiar with Precinct Omega, probably are more expert on this than I am. Warzone is one of those games that I've kind of kept coming across, but I've never played it. I've never really got deep into the setting or the background. I don't think I've ever owned any of the miniatures. But it's always been there, and it came out in the 90s. It came out as a direct and intentional competitor to Warhammer 40,000. It came out of a European country. My brain is saying Denmark, but that could easily be wrong. And it was explicitly pitched at a non-English-speaking market to try and get the market that Games Workshop at that point wasn't serving. But it quickly got itself translated into English, came across into the UK, and it was directly competing with Warhammer 40,000 on the shelves of independent all over the country. That created pressure on independents who gradually, for the most part, went out of business. And as they went out of business, so sales of Warzone decreased. So it never gained the traction that Warhammer 40,000 did. But it keeps on coming back, and it's come back in multiple different forms. So there is Warzone Mutant Chronicles, and that was, that still is, published by Modiphius Entertainment, which is an RPG set in the Warzone universe. There was a Kickstarter a while ago by the ill-fated Prodos Games to relaunch Warzone. I think they called it Warzone Rebirth or something like that. That was, again, just trying to relaunch the original Miniature War game. Oh, audio is very broken. Tell you what I will do, I've had some warning about my audio, so what I'm going to do is turn off my microphone